Welcome to Uncorked by Archaeology Now, the Houston chapter of the Archaeological Institute of America. I'm Lucas Livingston, the creator and host of the Ancient Art Podcast and a board member of the Chicago Museum. In Uncorked, we pop the top off of the history of alcoholic beverages around the world and across the ages. This episode drops just in time for the holidays, but can surely be enjoyed year-round. As our last leaves fall and winter's icy chill sets in, that's a balmy mid-50s Fahrenheit in Houston, our minds journey to warm moments around the fireplace with a tasty beverage in our hands and visions of sugar plums dancing in your head. You know, you really ought to see someone about that. In this episode of Uncorked, we're talking about holiday spirits. Traditional wintertime holiday beverages like eggnog, hot buttered rum, mulled wine, and those dark, heavy, winter warmer beers like barley wine and chocolate stout. As with so many contemporary holiday traditions, we might be tempted to think that all these beverages are pretty modern inventions. Interestingly, many of these contemporary seasonal concoctions have curiously antique origins. Let's consider eggnog, that thick, rich, sweet and creamy confection you can pick up during the holidays in just about any supermarket or as a shot of flavoring from your barista, wedged between peppermint and gingerbread. Hence the name. The defining ingredient in eggnog is raw egg. Now, thanks to pasteurization and, of course, today's artificial flavors, eggnog is not as potentially hazardous as its raw eggs would suggest. Incidentally, pasteurization, which involves heating food or drink to a temperature high enough to kill detrimental bacteria, pasteurization was invented by Louis Pasteur, in fact, as a result of the French wine industry contracting him to figure out how to prevent their product from spoiling with age. So, before pasteurization, eggnog was a decidedly kid-unfriendly drink made, say, from copious amounts of alcohol. And that's the secret ingredient if we make eggnog at home today. With sufficient exposure, even just a modest level of alcohol is sufficient to kill undesirable bacteria. Whether it's brandy, whiskey, bourbon, rum, or cognac, for many, eggnog just isn't eggnog without alcohol. And then there's the other half of that name. The origins of nog are disputed. Some scholars suggest it derives from the Middle English word for a wooden beer stein. Others believe nog refers to the practice of heating the drink with a hot poker. And while yet others assert that nog was simply a kind of strong beer. Regardless, the origins of eggnog seem wrapped up in all these potential definitions. Back in colonial America of the 1600s and 1700s, and likewise across the pond in England, a popular wintertime drink and ancestor to today's eggnog was a frothy mug of hot ale mixed with egg, sugar, and whatever spices. This winter warmer went by different names with many variations on the recipe. A popular name was flip. Preparation of flip began by beating raw eggs with cream sweetened with sugar or molasses. Then the mixture was aged on ice for a couple of days, after which one blended it with warm beer. The term flip is thought to refer to the frothing of the drink at the moment of serving. Flip is an old-fashioned word for froth, basically. And this can be done by pouring the beverage back and forth between two mugs, whipping it into a froth, or more popularly and spectacularly by sticking into the beer cocktail a red-hot iron poker called a loggerhead, or in German, a Bierstachel. Dovetail Brewery and Hopleaf Bar did a wonderful demonstration of this for the 2020 Chicago Museum Beer Culture Summit. It's quite a spectacle as the drink froths up and overflows the stein, while also caramelizing the beer and sugar in the process, giving off a beautiful aroma and adding a tasty roasted accent. And to top off the flip, the barkeep would add a shot or two of rum. I love the inherently performative nature of serving the drink. It demands an audience. It's the epitome of the beer and cocktail culture, bringing people together and building community, and kicking off a party. As the 1704 edition of the New England Almanac quipped, "The days are short, the weather's cold, by tavern fires tales are told. Some ask for dram when first come in, others with flip and bounce begin." Other hot beer cocktails of the colonial era include the addition of breadcrumbs or even a whole slice of toast. And as with eggnog today, brandy or whiskey could find their way into the hot beer cocktails just as easily as rum. An early take on hot buttered rum was hot buttered ale. Popular in the 1500s, this butter beer was a strong unhopped ale blended with sugar, spices, butter, and raw eggs. One early example that historians like to point to as a possible origin of these hot beer cocktails is posset. Posset was popular in England from the late Middle Ages to well into the 19th century. And to make posset, you bring milk to a boil and then blend it with ale or wine. As it cools and curdles, you collect the curds and you discard the whey. Then you season it with different spices like nutmeg, cinnamon, ginger, anise, and lemon peel. And of course, any good host would serve it from a posset pot. The spices in posset are very similar to those in Europe's different mulled wine traditions, like German Glühwein, Swedish Glögg, and English Wassail, though historically Wassail tended to be a mulled mead or cider rather than wine, and it too could include bread and raw eggs, much like our new best friend, the flip. In liquor stores and your favorite craft breweries today, we might find holiday-themed craft beer brewed with mulling spices like cinnamon, anise, clove, bitter orange, allspice, juniper berries, and the list goes on. While today's craft beer culture might prefer to restrict these herbs and spices only to the Yuletide season, let's remember from earlier episodes of Uncorked that a variety of fruits, herbs, spices, and plant resins found their way into the ales of antiquity and the Middle Ages before the dominion of hops. And still to this day, across much of Northern Europe, there's a tradition of brewing beer with juniper branches, and not just at Christmas time. It's pretty requisite among the traditional farmhouse brewers of Norway to include freshly cut juniper at some point in the brewing process, contributing some resinous characteristics to the beer. Those unfamiliar with traditional Norwegian farmhouse homebrew would be forgiven if they were to peg it as a Christmas beer because of its distinctly spicy and fruity characteristics from the juniper resins and the indigenous strain of heirloom yeast called kveik. Beer historian Lars Marius Garshol, who extensively documented Norwegian farmhouse brewing culture, when he first tried kveik beer in the summer of 2014, he says he noted a strong aroma of orange peel and what he describes as Christmas spices. With the holiday season being a time of year wrapped in so many traditional ceremonies, rituals, and beliefs, much of that spirit rubs off on the celebrations of alcoholic beverages, such as the English tradition of wassailing on the 12th night to scare away evil spirits and ensure a bountiful cider apple harvest in the fall. And going back to Norway, some people swear by the practice of making an annual offering of beer on Christmas Eve to placate the nisser, which are supernatural creatures living on your farm like elves or gnomes. I don't know about you, but to me, this Christmas tradition of leaving out beer for the Yule gnomes sounds an awful lot like our custom of setting out milk and cookies for Santa Claus. So if you're one who celebrates Christmas, maybe think about pouring a pint for jolly old St. Nick this year. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Uncorked. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and check out all the other great original video content from Archaeology now. I'm Lucas Livingston. Cheers.